a big turnaround from what we saw yesterday with the Nasdaq 100 hitting a record high, now pulling back 0.6% as we get closer to the closing bells today, Carol.
Yeah, absolutely, Romaine. A different tone, a different sentiment. You've got the number of falling stocks outnumbering rising ones for a record 9 consecutive days. You do wonder about that sentiment, what it's telling us maybe about the broader trends and where stocks go from here.
Okay, so we are rounding out earnings season. We got Broadcom in a few minutes. We'll hear from Costco a little bit later, too. We'll see what they have to say. And then, of course, next is the Fed. All attention turns to what we hear from Jay Powell and co. on Wednesday.
And no Fed speak until then because everyone's in blackout mode. So it does feel like we're kind of marking time until that Fed decision, even though it's pretty much baked in. We're going to get that 25 basis point rate cut.
Which then raises the question about the breadth that we've been talking about. BTIG was saying that, look, if we can't get the breadth and that rotation into breadth right to the end of the year, that doesn't bode well then for January and that broadening of the rally.
Just playing devil's advocate here, though. But, given that we're, 2.5 weeks away from the end of the year, 3 weeks from the end of the year, should we read too much into some of the price action?
No.
I feel like some people are starting to step away.
No, but you should definitely still tune in to our show at 3 p.m. every day, just in case to get us caught up on that price
To
action.
that point, I got an IB from somebody, a loyal listener and viewer, who said he's already on his way to California to ski for the season. So, yes, people are already leaving.
They already have snow there?
They have snow.
Or fake snow.
Tahoe.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we get the closing bells here in New York. You can't see them, but trust me, they're actually happening right across the screen for the major indices here in the United States. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 200 points or so, roughly about 0.5%. A similar percentage drop for the S&P 500, which is going to close out the day right around 6,051 as we wait for these numbers to settle. The Nasdaq Composite down more than 100 points or 0.7%. Your biggest decliner, though, amongst the major indices, that will be the Russell 2000, losing 33 points today or about 1.4%.
Kind of like thrown off by not hearing the bells. I'm just going to put that out there. Right?
Yeah.
Large caps, S&P 500.
Like a reverse Pavlov's dog or something.
Exactly. In the S&P 500, 326 names to the downside. So overwhelmingly kind of risk off. 174 names in the S&P gaining ground today. Scarlet 3 unchanged.
Did Trump take the bell with him after he owned it? Something. They have a bell there, right? Okay,
That's funny.
Sorry.
Very funny.
Let's look at the sector performances because we really saw some of the upside melt away as we got closer to the closing bell. There's only one sector that finished in the green, and that is consumer staples. Although real estate investment trusts and utilities fell less than the other sectors. So there's definitely a defensive tilt here in today's market. The worst performers are consumer discretionary and healthcare, losing 0.8%, along with communication services.
Can't be all that bad, you guys. Among my top gainers, actually the number one that I'm looking at is an IPO. So who said IPOs are dead?
That's interesting.
I know. Service Titan. Check this out. 42% in its first day of trading. It's a home repair software business. My home repair software business is known as my husband. I'm just going to put that out there. So the company soaring in its first day of trading, pricing above a marketed range, raising nearly $625 million in what could be probably the last major IPO of the year. This one went off without a hitch. Doing pretty well. All right, another name doing really well is Warner Brothers Discovery. This is your top gainer, I believe, in both the Nasdaq 100 and the S&P 500 today, guys. It's up almost 16%, so pretty much closing just off its highs of the day. Warner Brothers Discovery changing its corporate structure, creating separate divisions for its cable and streaming businesses. So now we've got, the media company, so CNN and HBO, and it's also creating a global linear networks division, housing its cable brands and news and sports. And then it's got the streaming side, so dividing it up. But that one really an outperformer. And then one more, courtesy of Tim, Riot Platforms. This stock up almost 13% at its highs, finishing the day with a gain of just shy of 5% today. Wall Street Journal reported that activist investor Starboard Value has taken a significant position, I'm using quotation marks, in the Bitcoin mining company. Stock's down 16% year to date, and about 14% of the float is shorted. But nonetheless, pretty much a bullish day today.
I'm always trying to get Carol to talk more about Bitcoin.
Always.
So that's how I succeeded today. Talking decliners, 13.7% to the downside for Adobe. The company gave a disappointing annual sales outlook. It underscores anxieties that Adobe may lose business to emerging AI-based startups. We did speak to an executive there a little earlier in the program today who did say that Again, brand safety, the idea of making sure that what they train their products on is not copywritten material, is their competitive advantage. Some analysts do say that the guidance was a little conservative, so we'll have to wait and see how things do shape up for the remainder of the quarter, and then, of course, next year as well. Adobe shares down 13.7% today. And then Nordson shares in the S&P 500 among the worst performers on a percentage basis, along with Adobe in there, down 8.2%. It's a diversified precision manufacturing tech firm. It serves more than 30 industries: aerospace, agriculture, automotive, plastics and textiles. You name it, they play in adhesives, sealings, coatings, and the like. So they got a great view on what's happening in the economy they operate in and sell around the world. They did report sales that gave guidance for the full year that analysts considered weak. Shares fell 8.2% by the end of the day today. And Stitch Fix shares soared yesterday, more than 44%. The company raised its forecast for full year net revenue from continuing operations today, coming back to earth a little bit, down 30%. Alex.
All right, let's get to the bond market. Really interesting price action. You saw a sell-off across the curve. I do want to point out we saw a pretty steep sell-off over in Europe as well, particularly with Italian yields. So the U.S. market really following Europe as well with that selling. Plus, you had a 30-year bond auction, $22 billion. It was not great. It did not go well. There were really low direct bidders. It was the indirect bidders that had to step in. That bid to cover was pretty weak as well. So that sell-off mostly more so on the back end, the 10-year yield up about 6 basis points.
It was kind of interesting, too. I mean, I was looking at some of the options data, and you're actually seeing a lot of those long positions that we had seen on the benchmark 10-year Treasury now sort of being unwound, and not necessarily to a massive extent, but it is a big turnaround from what we saw even just 2 months ago, where everyone really was betting for potentially a sub 4% 10-year yield. And now you're starting to see bets come back on the table for something closer to 4.75. And of course, some people now saying we could get back up to 5%.
Yeah, right. Very different. And, you know, you think about what the Fed might say, that kind of gives some support to that maybe next week at its meeting. Hey, guys, the political and cultural shift that we've kind of seen, some would say, since the election, the outcome, Donald Trump getting back in the White House, what we are seeing on school campuses, at least some of them, especially Ivy League, is the resurgence of Republican clubs, if you will, at colleges.
I believe, get this, last year only 15 people signed up to be in the Republican club at Brown University. This year, it's up to 50, which is still a tiny number compared to
Brown,
the student body. But what it represents is the ideological shift, right, that we're seeing in the country, and even on college campuses, too, in the wake of the protests that we saw on many college campuses in the spring of this year.
And those college protests are what swung a lot of people to the Republican clubs as well. There's a great story here on the Bloomberg where at Dartmouth College, Alix Steel co-founded the Conservative Students of Dartmouth Club early last year. If his name sounds familiar, it's because his father worked in the first Trump administration.
And he has the same name.
Yeah, there was, I think it was an article in the Post that talked about how Barron Trump was really popular at NYU. Okay, what I loved looking at here, this is an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it has to do with Ozempic and food companies. So the theory was Ozempic was going to crush the snack companies, but apparently Conagra Brands is rethinking how they're marketing some of their food. They're rolling out a new label that dubs a selection of its healthy choice frozen meals as, quote, GLP-1 friendly, all part of an effort to pitch people who are actually eating less. They're not alone. Nestle is doing something similar with their food as well. But I thought that was really interesting.
What's different about the food, though?
I don't know. They're just labeling it. This is a marketing thing. It's like if you're on GLP-1, you can still eat our food.
How can you make that claim, though? Because those drugs impact people differently. Like, I don't know. This makes me a little nervous.
I think it's more just they're all high protein and low calorie counts, and have a good source of fiber. So they kind of have the right mixture of things that people who are taking Ozempic are looking for.
So it's not necessarily that
like
they're
oatmeal.
It's not necessarily that they're coming out with
missing something?
Different foods. They're just saying, okay, these are the foods that are out that we have right now.
Oh, I got you.
And we'll label these GLP-1
Right, we'll label it for you so you don't have to look too hard.
Apparently, we're thinking like pineapple chicken. and a little beef merlot. They're pairing well. They have that protein at the end of the day. I think Restoration Hardware is out, having a pretty big jump right now, right?
Yeah, up about 15-16% here in the after-hours trade, even though net revenue pretty much just in line with estimates, $811 million and change, which is right on the nose of what the street was looking for here. I got to dig a little bit deeper here to see the bottom line numbers, but overall, you see the price reaction there on your screen.
Yeah, and stock's doing pretty well this year already, up about 30%. So you're building on that. So watch for that one now. It's up about 16%. So interesting to see that pop that we're seeing. And we'll look for some more numbers. But as you said, in line. So it'll be something we'll carry over into the Friday trade. All right, guys, that is a wrap. Our cross-platform on to Broadcom we go, which we'll get a little bit later here today. But looking forward to that one. Our cross-platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell. We'll see you tomorrow.